Welcome to Passioneer Magazine, the podcast, where you'll hear inspirational stories, encouraging news, and in-depth interviews with authors, influencers, CEOs, and thought leaders. Passioneer Magazine, the podcast. Bold ideas, brave pursuits, boundless inspiration. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Butchchester, my guest today, and I am so excited to be spending time with Sunny Flynn today, and I cannot wait to bring her on and share her success story with you. Hello, Sunny. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Good morning. Yes, I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. Now, before we get started, can you tell our listeners just a little bit about yourself? There may be some folks out there that are unfamiliar with you.
I'm sure there are. I'm a mom. I have, I'm also a stepmom. I have three stepchildren that used to be 8, 9, and 10. And now they're so old, I don't know if I can say they're my stepsons anymore. I have a daughter, and I had a son also. So busy life growing up. I've also been a school teacher, elementary and middle, and finished my career at Compton Community College as an English reading instructor. I'm an avid organic eater through my daughter's nagging, and I am also a jazzerciser. Since about they started in the late 70s. So I love to read, I love to ride my bike, I love my friends, and that's who I am.
Awesome. Now, when you were younger, what did you think you were going to be when you grew up?
I grew up on the East Coast many years ago when your choices of careers, you could either be a nurse, a teacher, or a secretary. I had no secretary skills. Nursing just didn't sit well with me. Both of my parents were teachers, so it was kind of like the family business. And my older sisters and nieces and nephews and my daughter all got into the field of education. So that's where we went, and that's how our lives are. I had a problem when I was in school. I was dyslexic, and in those days they didn't even know what that word meant. So I didn't like school. I remember one incident where the teacher was yelling, and I thought, if I were a teacher, I would never yell. And she said, if you don't like it in this classroom and you're not happy, then you get up and you get your coat and you go home. So being an obedient little 7-year-old, I got up and got my coat, and I was going towards the door. And she said, and where are you going, Miss Flynn? And I said, I'm going home. You said I could. So the principal was called. My sisters were called. And the principal asked me what was wrong. And I wasn't crying or anything. I was being very obedient. The teacher said I could go home if I didn't like it here. She yells so much. And he said to the teacher, is that what you said? And she's, well, I didn't really mean it. And he said, well, I think Miss Flynn should be allowed to go home today. And tomorrow, I think she'll be very happy to be in your classroom, won't she? I learned that so well that I never, ever raised my voice in all my years of teaching to any class or any student. I wanted to, but then I just remained silent. And all of a sudden, the class could feel that something was wrong with Miss Flynn.
Mm-hmm.
It worked.
Interesting. I love it. And so many of us have taken those incidences that happened to us as children and definitely parlay them into how we choose to interact with others. I love that. Now, many people don't know that you are also an author. So, what made you decide to do what you're doing today? What really prompted you, nudged you to say, yes, this is what I need to do and make this my career path?
I think a lot of teachers have a story within themselves. So, with my son's godmother, who was an elementary teacher also, we talked about all the geometric standards that Los Angeles needed from kindergarten through sixth grade, and we developed a book. Unfortunately, it didn't go anywhere. Looking back, it had too much information, and it was too immature for the older students, and the younger students were inexperienced and certainly, couldn't stand up to their teacher and say, why don't you go buy Miss Flynn's book? Unfortunately, years later, as a mom, I did lose my son, and I didn't know how to handle the grief. And having had counseling experience, I knew I had to do something, or it was not going to be good for my life or the rest of the family's lives. So I started to journal. I had never done that before, although I had had students do it. So every night I wrote, and over the years, those journals turned into books. And then one day I was thinking, I wonder what happened to Nick's clothes that my girlfriends were so nice to donate for me when he passed. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write a book about that. And what was so different from having talked to other authors, I had the ending in my head before anything else. No, I had the characters. I decided on the names of the three young men that would receive the coats, the book being The Three Coats. But the ending came to me, and my job was to get from the beginning to the end. So it was fun. I loved it. I'd get up in the morning and have my coffee and sit down and start typing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd notice it was dark outside, and I'd look.
Right, I tell you, time can definitely get away from you, and especially in the colder months when it gets darker earlier. You are so right there. So let me ask you, what is the I don't want to be blunt and say, what's the point of your business? But I know that for many of our listeners, be it that they are entrepreneurs, they are C-suite folks, they are solopreneurs, mompreneurs, we like to know the facts, right? We want to get the statistics so that we can make an informed decision about the things that we do. So in helping someone else understand why you do what you do, what is the mission? What is the vision? What is the point of your business? Who do you find that you help the most?
Well, the simple point of my being an author is to help people. I can't go to every home and talk to them about having faith, relying on your faith, being self-confident, doing what you feel inside you need to do, and sticking to it. That's the whole point of why I write, just to reach as many people as I can and help them. And I get that back with the
Right.
So it's working.
Now, what advice would the person you are today give to the person that you were when you started that journey?
I was such a scared little kid and just so insecure. All I wanted to do was hold my mommy's hand. And it took me really until I was in college before I said, you know what? You got a brain, you got some smarts, you got to use them. And I would just say, be who you are, get that strength. Talk to yourself. Be self-confident and just get out there and do what you need to do. And if it doesn't work, then, try again. or try something else. And, just do it. Don't be afraid. Just go and get up and do it. So that's how I live.
Absolutely. I cannot agree with you more. We see on social media the reminders that say, do it, even if you have to do it afraid. Go out and make it happen. Step out in faith. However you need to be encouraged or prompted to do that. I nugget of wisdom there. We need to just do whatever we have been called to do. I love that piece of advice. Now, can you name a person who has had an impact on your life, or even a tremendous impact on you as a leader, as an author, or just simply in your life in general? And why do you believe that this person has helped you? Like, so many times folks will say, well, I was inspired by my third grade teacher because she was kind. Okay, well, why do you think that she was kind? Or how did the kindness register in your spirit? That's the question that I'm asking you. So, can you name a person that has made an impact on your life?
Oh, absolutely. My mom died 30 years ago, and I still hear her voice. Sometimes I hear it through my sister when I need some advice. But my mom is looking after me and near me. She was widowed after 13 years of marriage, very suddenly. And I was 9, my sisters were 11 and 12. And she grieved. I remember she grieved. But then, very shortly, she was just her mom again. And being older now, I know she did that for us, and I know how hard that must have been. But she went back to teaching, and one day she came home and sat us down and said, we need to be a team. We need to be roommates. So if the dishes need to get done, then somebody does them other than me. The house needs to be cleaned, same thing. Somebody does it. Doesn't matter who. If someone else is busy with homework or assignments or whatever, then the other people pick it up. But when your friends walk in this house, if it's a mess, it's not my fault. So from now on, the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry, everything we do as a team. And I raised my daughter that way. When she was 12, I sat her down and I told her the same thing. And we had such a great relationship that even today, we're best friends. I was her matron of honor at her wedding. I was her best friend. So all that my mom did, her tenacious attitude, when a pipe broke, we got together and tried to fix it. Didn't always work. But the shoveling of the snow, the cutting of the grass, anything and everything. And if we needed something, my mom got it for us. Somehow we all had prom dresses. We all had good shoes. We all had good food. We had many family members around, and we had a good life. And that was because of my mom and her constant care and love. And I know she missed my dad. I remember her singing songs of those days, where you're pining for your loved one and all those Frank Sinatra songs. But she was a tremendous, and still is, a tremendous influence in me, and hence
I love it.
a tremendous influence on my daughter.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Shout out to all of the amazing mothers that we have out there, because there are so many unsung heroes that we find in the person that we call mom. So thank you so much for sharing that. Now, as an organization starts to grow, as a business starts to grow, as an association starts to grow, many times a person in their popularity, they may shift somewhat. There can be a tendency for the passion for what you do to dampen a little bit because you may have felt that you've arrived or you've done all that you can do. There's so many check marks. You had this vision board and you've just been checking things off. And perhaps that passion has started to dampen a little bit. How do you keep that from happening? What nugget of wisdom can you share with someone who feels that maybe their passion is starting to wane just a bit?
I think once you have that passion, it never leaves. I think it does, and I know I've experienced myself. It gets to be in a resting mode where you're hitting your head against the wall, and you try to do this and you try to do that, and you think of this and this doesn't work, and you have to count on other people to make your passion successful, and that's frustrating and it's tiring. And I think you need to just, sit yourself down, go for a walk, go for a bike ride, or I don't know. I tend to have a pint of Rocky Road ice cream and start again. Just, get into it again.
I like that.
Just
Hit that reset button. Don't let it bring you down. Just go ahead and recalibrate. Hit the reset button. Take that walk. I like what you said. Have a little bit of ice cream or a little something that's going to definitely make you happy. So do that something. Have a coffee or a water, a walk. I love that bit of advice. Do something that's going to shake it up and shake off that stagnation. I love it. I love it. Now, what 3 things do you do in your daily life that have absolutely contributed to a better life for yourself? Now, let me kind of add a little disclaimer here. We're not telling anyone that they have to do these things in order to be happy. It is just encouragement for you to know that perhaps you have something in common, or you might try something different if you have found that you are in that stagnation. So again, let me ask you, Sunny, what are 3 things that you find that you do in your daily life that really contribute to your feeling that your life is better because of it?
when I wake up every morning, I give my son's picture a kiss. I say my prayers. I would be lost without my faith. So that's the first thing I have to have. Second thing is my health. Having an organic diet really has helped tremendously. I have more energy than anyone of my friends, and that's important. That's a daily, absolute positive trait that I have to keep to myself. And then I have my exercise program. I've been a member of the Jazzercise community exercise program for years and years and years. And you don't have to dance. You just do what the instructor does and says, and it works. So those 3 things are in my life every day.
I love it. I love it. And you are so right. We have to make sure that we are looking at our well-being, that we are moving our bodies, eating the best food that we possibly can, and also relying on our faith. Whatever your faith is, listener, make sure that you're doing what you need to do as far as that is concerned. And I love how you are really spending time with loved ones as well. I like that. Last question for you, and that is, how do you use your voice to empower others? Here at Passioneer Magazine and on Passioneer Magazine, the podcast, we believe in being 2 things. 1, that you should be a mindful entrepreneur. And number 2, that you should live your passion. So I pose the last question to you. How do you use your voice to empower others?
I use it through my writing. When I wrote the 3 coats, I enjoyed every word of it. And it just is a wonderful story of wondering and finding out what happens to donated clothes. Does my son's spirit go with the clothing? And the 3 young men who each find a coat and the impact of the coat upon his life shows that perhaps, maybe it's possible. But my voice is, look what can happen. Don't just live your life fully. Read, be with friends, be healthy, take care of yourself. That's where my voice is, through my writings.
I love that. Thank you so much, Sunny, for spending some time with us here on Passioneer Magazine, the podcast. Of course, your book, The Three Coats, is available on Amazon or wherever books are sold. Again, thank you so much for spending time with us here today, and we wish you nothing but continued successes.
Oh, thank you so much. Enjoyed talking with you.
And thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to Passioneer Magazine, the podcast.